You wake up. Same alarm. Same thoughts. Same scroll through your phone. You go through the motions, but something feels off. Not dramatically wrong, just stale. Like you're living on repeat. You're not falling apart, but you're not moving forward either. This is the loop. The loop is sneaky. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It shows up in the way you delay decisions, avoid hard conversations, or keep saying next week to your goals. It's the quiet comfort of habits that no longer serve you. It's the job you don't love but won't leave. The relationship that's fine but not fulfilling. The version of yourself that's familiar but not alive. Most people don't even realize they're in a loop. Feels normal, predictable, safe. But deep down there's a restlessness, a low hum of dissatisfaction. You start asking questions you don't say out loud. Is this it? Am I wasting time? Why do I feel stuck when everything looks okay? The loop isn't just about routine. It's about identity. You've built a life around certain beliefs. I'm not creative. I'm too old to start over. I need to be responsible. These beliefs shape your choices. And over time, your choices shape your reality. The loop becomes a self-fulfilling cycle. You act based on who you think you are, and that keeps you from becoming who you could be. There's a strange comfort in the loop. It's familiar. It doesn't challenge you. It lets you coast. But coasting isn't living. It's surviving. And eventually, even comfort starts to feel like a trap. You might notice signs. You procrastinate more. You feel drained after doing things that used to excite you. You scroll endlessly, hoping something will spark you. You fantasize about quitting everything and starting fresh. But you don't, because the loop convinces you that change is risky and staying the same is safer. You tell yourself stories to justify it. I'm just tired. It's not the right time. I'll figure it out later. But later never comes. The loop feeds on delay. It thrives on indecision. It wraps itself around your life like a fog, soft, quiet, and hard to escape. Sometimes the loop looks like success. You're busy. You're productive. You're checking boxes. But inside, you feel disconnected. You're performing a version of yourself that no longer fits. You smile at meetings, nod through conversations, and laugh at jokes that don't land. You're present, but not really there. Other times, the loop is loud. It's arguments that repeat, projects that stall, goals that never get traction. You try to push through, but something keeps pulling you back. You feel like you're walking in circles, chasing clarity that never arrives. And then there's the emotional loop, the one that plays out in your head. The same doubts, the same fears, the same inner critic, whispering the same lines. You're not ready. You'll fail. You're not enough. You try to silence it, but it always finds a way back in. The loop can last for weeks, months, years. It doesn't care how smart you are, how successful you've been, or how much potential you hold. It only cares that you stay where you are, because the loop is built on inertia, and inertia is powerful. But here's the truth. The loop isn't your enemy. It's a signal, a phase, part of the journey. It's the tension between who you are and who you're becoming. That tension is uncomfortable, but it's also sacred. It means something inside you is waking up. You don't escape the loop by force. You don't need to blow up your life overnight. You escape it by noticing, by naming it, by admitting, I'm stuck. That's the first crack in the wall. That's where light gets in. Start small. Ask yourself, what patterns am I repeating? What am I avoiding? What do I keep postponing? These questions don't fix everything, but they open the door. They shift your awareness. And awareness is the beginning of change. You might feel resistance. That's normal. The loop doesn't like being seen. It will try to convince you that you're overthinking, that you're being dramatic, that you should just be grateful. But gratitude doesn't mean settling. You can be thankful and still want more. You can appreciate your life and still crave evolution. Sometimes the loop is tied to fear. Fear of failure. fear of judgment, fear of losing control. You stay in the loop because it feels safer than the unknown. But the unknown is where growth lives. It's where your next chapter begins. Other times, the loop is tied to guilt. You don't want to disappoint people. You don't want to seem selfish. You don't want to let go of what you've built. But holding on to something that no longer fits is its own kind of loss. And letting go isn't betrayal, it's liberation. The loop can also be tied to grief. You're mourning a version of yourself. A dream that didn't work out. A path that closed. You stay in the loop because you're afraid to feel the full weight of that loss. But grief is not the end. It's a passage. And on the other side is clarity. You might try to distract yourself. New hobbies, new goals, new relationships. But if the foundation doesn't shift, the loop will return. Because the loop isn't about what you do. It's about how you see yourself. And until that shifts, everything else is just decoration. So what do? You pause. You listen. You get honest. You stop pretending everything's fine. You stop performing. You stop numbing. You start asking better questions. You start telling the truth. You start choosing yourself. You don't need a 5-year plan. You don't need to quit your job tomorrow. You just need to take one step. One honest step. One brave step. One step that says, I'm ready to shift. The loop is the first phase of transformation. It's the moment before the moment. The quiet before the storm. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You're not stuck forever. You're just stuck for now. And the next phase is coming. You're not broken. You're not behind. You're not too late. You're just in the loop. And the loop is a sign that something deeper is calling you. So listen. Lean in. Let yourself feel the discomfort. Let yourself ask the hard questions. Let yourself imagine something different. Because the loop isn't the end. It's the beginning. There's a moment. It doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's brutal. But it always feels like something inside you just clicked. You're brushing your teeth. You're walking home. You're staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m. And suddenly you see it. The pattern. The truth. The thing you've been avoiding. It's not new. But this time you actually notice it. That's the recognition. Recognition is the moment you stop lying to yourself. You stop pretending everything's fine. You stop explaining away the discomfort. You stop saying, it's just a phase. Or, I'm just tired. You look in the mirror, sometimes literally, and you say, this isn't working. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's a whisper, a sentence that lands differently, a memory that resurfaces. A question that won't leave you alone. You hear someone say something that hits you in the chest. You reread an old journal entry and realize you've been stuck for longer than you thought. You catch your own reflection and don't recognize the person staring back. Recognition is raw. It's uncomfortable. It's the moment you realize you've been living on autopilot. That you've been making choices out of fear, habit, or obligation. That you've been shrinking yourself to fit into a life that no longer fits. It's the moment you admit you're not okay. And that admission is powerful. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Recognition doesn't fix everything. It doesn't erase the pain or solve the problem. But it changes the game. It shifts your awareness. It opens a door. And once that door is open, something inside you starts to move. You begin to question things. Why am I still doing this? Who am I trying to please? What do I actually want? These questions don't come with easy answers. But they come with energy, with momentum, with truth. Sometimes, recognition comes after a breakdown. You hit a wall. You burn out. You lose something. And in the rubble, you find clarity. You realize that the life you were building wasn't yours. That the version of success you were chasing wasn't fulfilling. That the person you were becoming didn't feel like you. Other times, recognition comes in stillness. You slow down. You get quiet. You stop running. And in that silence, you hear yourself. Not the voice of your parents. not the expectations of society, not the noise of social media, just you. And that voice says, it's time. Recognition is a mirror. It reflects your truth, not the polished version, not the curated story, the real one, the messy one, the one you've been avoiding. And when you finally look, it's jarring, but it's also liberating. You realize you've been settling, you've been performing, you've been surviving, and now you want more. You want to feel alive again. You want to feel connected. You want to feel like yourself. Recognition doesn't mean you know what to do next. It just means you know you can't keep doing what you've been doing. It's the moment you stop running in circles and start looking for a way out. It's the moment you stop asking, what's wrong with me? And start asking, what's wrong with this situation? It's the moment you stop blaming yourself and start reclaiming your power. Recognition is the beginning of honesty. And honesty is the beginning of healing. You might feel guilt. You might feel shame. You might feel regret. That's okay. Those feelings are part of the process. They're signs that you're waking up, that you're feeling again, that you're ready to shift. You might also feel relief, because even though the truth is hard, it's also freeing. It means you're not crazy. You're not lazy. You're not broken. You're just misaligned. And now you're ready to realign. Recognition is the moment you stop asking for permission. You stop waiting for someone to save you. You stop hoping things will magically change. You realize that the shift starts with you. It's not about blaming others. It's not about burning bridges. It's about clarity, about seeing things as they are, about telling the truth even if it's uncomfortable. You might cry. You might laugh. You might feel like you're falling apart. But you're not. You're falling into yourself. Recognition is sacred. It's the spark, the crack, the beginning. It's the moment you say, I deserve better. I want more. I'm ready. And once you say it, something shifts. You start noticing things you used to ignore. You start feeling things you used to numb. You start wanting things you used to suppress. You start remembering who you are. Recognition is not the end of the loop. It's the bridge, the turning point, the moment you step out of autopilot and into awareness. It's the moment you stop being a character in someone else's story and start writing your own. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to know the whole plan. You just need to honor the moment, to trust the feeling, to follow the spark, because that spark will lead you somewhere new. Recognition is the second phase of a personal shift. It's the mirror moment, the awakening, the truth. And if you're here, if you're feeling it, then you're already shifting. You're already moving. You're already becoming. You might feel like you're standing at the edge of something, a cliff, a doorway, a threshold. You don't know what's on the other side, but you know you can't go back. That's recognition. It's the moment you stop asking for signs and realize you are the sign. It's the moment you stop waiting and start choosing. It's the moment you stop surviving and start living. Recognition is not a one-time event. It can happen in layers, in waves. You might recognize one truth today and another tomorrow. You might peel back one belief and find 5 more underneath. That's okay. That's part of the shift. You're not supposed to have it all figured out. You're supposed to feel, to notice, to name, to begin. Recognition is the moment you say, I'm done pretending. I'm done performing. I'm done waiting. It's the moment you say, I'm ready to be real. And being real is where the shift begins. You've seen the truth. You've named the discomfort. You've admitted that something needs to change. That's recognition. But now comes the hard part, the part no one glamorizes. The part that's not pretty, not perfect, and definitely not linear. This is recalibration. Recalibration is the phase where everything feels uncertain. You're no longer who you were, but you're not yet who you're becoming. You're in between identities, between habits, between versions of yourself. It's disorienting, it's uncomfortable, and it's absolutely necessary. Think of it like renovating a house. You've torn down the old wallpaper. You've ripped up the carpet. You've exposed the cracks in the foundation. Now you're standing in the middle of the mess, wondering what to rebuild and how to begin. Recalibration is messy because it's real. You're not just changing your schedule or your wardrobe. You're changing your beliefs, your boundaries, your behaviors. You're questioning everything you used to accept without thinking. You start noticing how often you say yes when you mean no. How often you shrink yourself to keep the peace. How often you chase validation instead of alignment. These realizations sting. But they're also sacred, because they show you where the work is. Recalibration is not about perfection. It's about experimentation. You try new things. You set new boundaries. You speak up in ways you never have before. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it backfires. Sometimes you feel empowered. Sometimes you feel exposed. You might journal more. You might cry more. You might spend more time alone. You might lose friends. You might disappoint people. You might feel like you're falling apart. But you're not. You're falling into alignment. This phase is full of contradictions. You feel stronger and more fragile. Clearer and more confused. Energized and exhausted. That's normal. That's recalibration. You're rewiring your nervous system. You're retraining your mind. You're rebuilding your identity. That takes time. That takes patience. That takes grace. You might start therapy. You might read books that challenge your worldview. You might revisit childhood memories. You might confront old wounds. You might realize that some of your patterns aren't just habits, they're survival strategies. And now you're ready to let them go. Letting go is hard. Even when you know something isn't serving you, it's still familiar. It's still comfortable. It's still part of your story. But growth requires release. And release requires trust. Trust that you're not losing yourself, you're finding yourself. Trust that the discomfort is not a sign of failure, it's a sign of progress. Trust that the mess is not a problem, it's a portal. Recalibration is also about boundaries. You start saying no more often. You stop explaining yourself. You stop apologizing for your needs. You stop tolerating what drains you. That might upset people. That might confuse people. That might distance people. But it will also attract the right people. You start choosing yourself. Not in a selfish way. In a sacred way. In a way that honors your energy, your truth, your evolution. You start asking better questions. Not what do they want from me, but what do I want for myself? Not how do I fit in, but where do I belong? Not how do I keep the peace, but how do I protect my peace? You start making decisions that feel scary but right. You leave jobs. You end relationships. You move cities. You change routines. You take risks. Not because you're reckless, but because you're ready. Ready to live in alignment. Ready to honor your truth. Ready to build a life that reflects who you really are. Recalibration is not glamorous. It's not Instagrammable. It's not a highlight reel. It's the behind-the-scenes work, the quiet shifts, the invisible healing, the deep rewiring. It's the phase where you stop chasing and start choosing, where you stop performing and start embodying, where you stop surviving and start thriving. You might feel lonely. That's normal. You're shedding old layers, old roles, old relationships that create space. And space can feel empty before it feels expansive. You might feel impatient. You want results. You want clarity. You want certainty. But recalibration doesn't move on your timeline. It moves on your soul's timeline. And your soul is not in a rush. You might feel like you're failing, like you're not doing enough, like you're not healing fast enough. But healing is not a race. It's a rhythm. And your rhythm is sacred. Recalibration is also about forgiveness. You forgive yourself for staying too long, for settling too often, for silencing your truth. You forgive others not to excuse them, but to free yourself. You release the weight. You reclaim your energy. You start creating new rituals, morning routines, movement practices, creative outlets. You start surrounding yourself with people who see you, support you, stretch you. You start speaking your truth, even when your voice shakes. You start trusting your intuition, that quiet knowing, that inner compass, that gut feeling. You stop outsourcing your decisions. You stop seeking approval. You start listening to yourself. You start building a new foundation, one rooted in clarity, in courage, in compassion. You start designing a life that feels like home. Recalibration is the renovation phase. It's the messy middle. It's the sacred chaos. And it's where the real shift happens. You're not who you used to be. You're not yet who you're becoming. You're in between. And that's okay. You're allowed to be a work in progress. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to take up space. You're allowed to evolve. Recalibration is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming whole. It's about integrating your truth. It's about honoring your journey. It's about choosing yourself again and again and again. And when you do, something shifts. You feel lighter. You feel clearer. You feel more like you. Not the old you. Not the performative you. The real you. The you that's been waiting beneath the surface. The you that's ready to rise. You've been through the loop. You've faced the mirror. You've torn down the walls and started rebuilding. And now something shifts. Subtle at first. A moment of peace. A decision that feels easy. A conversation where you speak your truth without flinching. You don't announce it. You don't post about it. But inside, something has changed. This is the breakthrough. Breakthrough isn't loud. It's not always dramatic. It's not a single moment. It's a series of small ones. It's waking up and realizing you feel lighter. It's noticing that the things that used to trigger you don't anymore. It's choosing differently, not because you're forcing it, but because it feels natural. You've recalibrated. You've realigned. And now you're living from that new place. Breakthrough is when the shift becomes visible. Not just to you, but to others. People start saying, "You seem different. You feel calmer. You're glowing." They don't know what changed, but they feel it. Because you're no longer performing. You're no longer pretending. You're no longer stuck. You're living as the shift itself. This phase is powerful. Not because everything is perfect, but because you're no longer afraid of imperfection. You're no longer chasing approval. You're no longer trying to be someone else. You're showing up as you. You trust yourself more. You listen to your intuition. You make decisions from clarity, not fear. You speak with conviction. You move with purpose. You rest without guilt. You create without apology. You've stopped asking, "Am I allowed to?" and started saying, "I choose to." Breakthrough is not about becoming someone new. It's about becoming who you've always been beneath the conditioning, the expectations, the fear. You remember your voice, your rhythm, your essence. You stop shrinking. You stop hiding. You stop waiting. You start living. This phase is marked by ease. Not because life is suddenly easy, but because you're no longer resisting it. You're no longer fighting yourself. You're no longer clinging to what's gone. You've accepted the mess. You've embraced the mystery. You've surrendered to the flow. You're not trying to control everything. You're not trying to fix everyone. You're not trying to prove anything. You're simply being. Breakthrough is also marked by clarity. You know what matters. You know what drains you. You know what fuels you. You know what you're here for. You might not have all the answers, but you have direction. You have alignment. You have momentum. You start creating from a deeper place. You start connecting from a truer place. You start contributing from a freer place. You're no longer chasing a version of success that doesn't fit. You're defining success on your own terms. Peace, purpose, presence. That's your new currency. You're no longer afraid to be seen. You're no longer afraid to take up space. You're no longer afraid to say no. You've reclaimed your power. Breakthrough doesn't mean you never struggle. It means you know how to move through struggle. It means you trust yourself to handle it. It means you don't collapse, you recalibrate. You've built resilience. You've built self-trust. You've built a foundation that holds you. You're no longer living from reaction. You're living from intention. You're no longer stuck in the loop. You're no longer lost in confusion. You're no longer drowning in doubt. You've emerged. You've arrived. You've shifted. This phase is also marked by embodiment. You don't just talk about boundaries, you hold them. You don't just dream about change, you live it. You don't just hope for peace, you create it. You've integrated the lessons. You've absorbed the wisdom. You've become the shift. You're no longer waiting for a sign. You are the sign. You're no longer asking for permission. You are the permission. You're no longer hoping for breakthrough. You are the breakthrough. This phase is sacred. It's the reward for the work. It's the fruit of the process. It's the reflection of your courage. You've faced the loop. You've named the truth. You've rebuilt your foundation. And now you rise. You rise with clarity. You rise with confidence. You rise with compassion. You rise as the new you, not a perfect you, not a polished you, present you, powerful you, peaceful you. This is the phase where you begin to live differently. You choose differently. You love differently. You lead differently. You're no longer surviving, you're thriving. You're no longer performing, you're expressing. You're no longer doubting, you're trusting. You're no longer stuck, you're free. Breakthrough is not the end of the journey. It's the beginning of a new one. A journey where you live from truth, from alignment, from soul. You'll still recalibrate. You'll still reflect. You'll still evolve. But now you do it from a place of wholeness. You've shifted. And now you shine.